This is Seth David for schoolofbookkeeping.com, bringing to you a very special screencast. This time we're bringing to you a response from our answers section on schoolofbookkeeping.com, and we're answering the question that boiled down to its bare essence is, how do I fix a debit balance in accounts payable on a cash basis balance sheet? So we've got a negative AP balance for that matter. How do we fix any balance when we see a balance in accounts payable on a cash basis balance sheet? There shouldn't be a balance at all. We're going to take a look at how this happens and how to fix it. William writes in, "Hello, School of Bookkeeping. I am preparing year-end financials and have selected the cash basis in QB. However, when I run a balance sheet report, I find that I have a debit amount for AP. To solve this, I usually run a balance sheet on accrual basis and adjust my AP to cash basis reporting, i.e. a zero basis. I have two questions. First, do you have a simpler and efficient method for adjusting a year-end accrual-based balance sheet to a cash-based expense report, cash-based report for tax purposes? Second, QuickBooks will show a balance on a cash basis balance sheet, i.e. debit balance from AP, due to the fact that it is tied to other items on the balance sheet and cannot clear it out to zero because the related balance sheet items would be out of balance, no corresponding entry for double entry bookkeeping. Can you please offer your thoughts on whether or not this is true and what I can do to put my accrual reports on a cash basis?" Back to question number one. And the answer, William, is that yes, it's true that QuickBooks does not know how to close out the entries year-end cash basis on the balance sheet when you have items linked to other balance sheet accounts. A classic example is I have an invoice with an item that's linked to a customer deposits account, which is a liability on the balance sheet. And I have an unpaid invoice with one of those items as of the end of the year. So QuickBooks doesn't know how to close it out. So you have to sort of manually close those out. But let's take a look and see how we can also quickly identify and reverse out those items that are making up that negative accounts payable balance on the balance sheet. There's actually a very quick and easy way to do this, believe it or not. So here's a sample company file, and I went ahead and prepared an entry that would cause a problem exactly like what we're talking about here. The bottom line is, either way, on a cash basis, accounts receivable and accounts payable should disappear. They shouldn't exist on a cash basis by the very definition of what cash versus accrual means. Accrual means I recognize the income or expense regardless of whether or not it's been paid, but based on whether it's been incurred, right? So on a cash basis, by contrast, it says I don't recognize income or expense until the item has been paid. So there should be no receivables because receivables suggest that I have unpaid income. On a cash basis, there's no such thing, so it gets reversed out. On the payable side, if I enter a bill, for example, for prepaid insurance, then and I haven't paid that bill yet, I've just entered it, then on a cash basis, that's not an expense. And for that matter, it shouldn't even be on the balance sheet as a prepaid yet because I haven't actually paid for it. So let's run the balance sheet, and that is in fact what I did. Notice my default is accrual basis, so I can change this to cash because I'm trying to do it based on wanting to file a tax return now. A lot of us really have to function on an accrual basis when we're running our businesses, but for tax purposes, we go to cash basis. So that's why I usually leave the default as accrual, but then change the method of reporting to cash just for the purpose of producing financial statements for tax preparation purposes. Notice I have accounts payable here. Why? And if I double click this, then what happens initially is I get this long list of all these bills, and how am I supposed to figure out how to arrive at this $1,500? Well, one hint is actually in this case it falls out right at the bottom, but it's not always going to be that easy. So what you'll want to do is take this report, and keep in mind I got to this report by simply double clicking on the accounts payable balance. Then if I change it from total by account list to total by vendor, because remember, if it's accounts payable, we're dealing with vendors, now I can scroll down and I can see very quickly and clearly who's got a balance, because if I drill into a cash basis report, then the resulting report will also be cash basis, which means I'm going to flush out anything that's causing a balance. In this case, since we already know the entire balance is $1,500, we know we've found the entire problem here. Notice everybody else zeroes out on a cash basis. So this is how we can isolate what the issue is. And now that I've seen that, I know I've got $1,500 in accounts payable. Looks like it's being booked to prepaid insurance. Let's go to the balance sheet now, and let's find prepaid insurance. Now, prepaid insurance has $2,125 in it on a cash basis, but before we write that off, we need to see that this has actually been paid for, right? So a check was written. So really what this means is on a cash basis, this whole $68.75 would need to be expensed all at once. Doesn't really matter. We paid for it at the beginning of the year. We accrued it. We're down to $625. So here's the entry that I would post to fix this. We really have to get rid of the entire prepaid because, again, a prepaid shouldn't exist on a cash basis. So I'm going to actually debit the or credit rather the prepaid for $21.25, and I'm going to debit insurance expense for the $625 because on a cash basis, since this has been paid for, it should be expensed, right? And then in this case, I'm going to I don't want to pick up an expense for this insurance, so this simply gets reversed out. So I get rid of the payable and I get rid of the prepaid on this one. So this prepaid gets offset against accounts payable. This $625 gets offset against the actual insurance expense account. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. As always, if you have any questions, go to this forum. You're seeing the results right here before you. If you're watching this video, you're seeing the exact response that William got as a result of posting a question here. So if you got a question, and especially if you'd like a video reply, we're not going to do videos on all of them, but I'm going to try as much as I can to do as many videos as possible because it's good for us and it's good for you. So come over here to schoolofbookkeeping.com, click over here on answers, post your questions. We'd love to get them. I'd love to answer them. And I look forward to seeing you on the web.